Sarah and Jake had just become parents to a beautiful baby girl, Emily. But like every sleep-deprived new parent, they needed help. Enter Claire, the perfect nanny. Claire had glowing recommendations, a warm smile, and the kind of patience that could calm even a teething demon. It was like she had superpowers, or at least that's what they thought. On her first day, Claire walked in like Mary Poppins meets a Hallmark movie. "You two go enjoy yourselves. I've got everything under control," she beamed. Sarah and Jake, relieved to finally breathe, left Emily in Claire's capable hands. Spoiler alert, not as capable as they thought. Everything seemed great, until tiny red flags started popping up. First, the baby monitor was mysteriously turned off one night. Probably a glitch, Sarah shrugged. Then, Emily started getting fussy and restless only when Claire was around. "She's just adjusting," Claire said, smiling, but her eyes? A little too calm. One evening, Jake noticed the nanny cam was slightly tilted, as if someone had moved it. Claire swore she never touched it. Sure, Claire." Sarah, now running on caffeine and suspicion, decided to place a hidden camera in the nursery, one even Claire wouldn't know about. "It's probably nothing," Jake said. Spoiler alert, it was definitely something. The next day, they went out for dinner. But instead of enjoying their date, they couldn't shake off the weird feeling. That night, Sarah checked the footage, and froze. Before we dive into this story, leave a comment telling us where in the world you're watching from today, and if you enjoy this story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Sarah hit play. The footage started normal, Claire rocking Emily to sleep, humming a lullaby. "Okay, that's not so bad," she muttered. Then, Claire did something weird. She looked straight into the camera, the hidden one. Almost like she knew. "Jake, get over here. This woman is straight up giving horror movie vibes," Sarah whispered, feeling a chill down her spine. Claire turned away and started talking. But not to Emily. To herself. Shoo, soon, just a little longer," Claire murmured. "You'll see, baby girl." "Who is she talking to?" Jake asked, his voice now half terrified, half ready to fight a nanny. Then, Claire did something even creepier. She rocked herself back and forth, holding Emily, whispering, "You were always meant to be mine." Sarah slammed the laptop shut. Nope. I did not sign up for a Lifetime movie gone wrong situation. We need to get her out of the house. Now." Jake's hands were already forming fists of pure dad rage. But before they could act, the baby monitor crackled to life. And a voice came through. A voice that wasn't Emily's. Or Claire's. The baby monitor crackled like an old radio trying to pick up a signal from the underworld. Then, a voice. A whisper. Soft. Slow. Not Claire. Not Emily. Not human. "Shoo, she's almost ready." "Nope. I'm out," Jake declared, already halfway to the door. Sarah grabbed his arm, because horror movie logic says we stay and investigate instead of running. That was a voice, right? I didn't just imagine that. Sarah whispered, her fingers shaking over the laptop. Jake, now looking one wrong move away from grabbing a baseball bat, nodded. "Yeah, and I don't like it. At all." Sarah, in full detective mode, rewound the footage. Claire was still rocking Emily. But then, she stopped. And turned. Slowly. Toward the baby monitor. Then, with a twisted smile, she whispered, "I hear you too." Sarah and Jake? Officially not okay. They had a possible ghost monitor situation and a nanny with villain origin story energy under their roof. Sarah slammed the laptop shut again. Nope. I did not sign up for a Netflix horror series in my own house. Jake, still gripping the nearest object, which happened to be a TV remote, Not exactly a great weapon. Whispered, "We need to fire her. Right now." "Fire her?" "Jake, we need to get Emily out of here first." Claire's giving off "I stare at my reflection for too long" vibes. "Okay, new plan, we act normal, pretend we saw nothing, and set up a trap." "A trap?" "Oh sure, because trapping a possible child stealing, ghost whispering psycho sounds like a solid idea." "You have a better one?" Jake asked. Sarah didn't. So, the plan was set. Midnight. Claire was asleep in the guest room. Sarah set up a second hidden camera in the living room. "If she tries anything weird tonight, we'll have proof," Sarah whispered. But as they checked the baby monitor one last time, Emily's crib was empty. And then, a slow creaking sound came from downstairs. Sarah grabbed Jake's arm so hard, she almost cut off his circulation. "The crib. It's empty." Jake, officially in full dad mode, bolted out of the room like an action hero. Sarah, less action hero, more horror movie survivor, followed. The creaking sound came from downstairs. Slow. Deliberate. Like someone moving carefully, too carefully. Sarah whispered, "What if she's," but Jake held up a hand. Footsteps. Coming from the living room. They peeked around the corner. And there she was. Claire. Sitting on the couch. Rocking Emily. Whispering. "You were always meant to be mine, so close now, so close," she murmured, running her fingers through Emily's hair. Jake saw red. "Put her down," he roared, storming in. Claire didn't even flinch. "Shoo, she's almost ready," Claire cooed, not looking at them. Then she turned her head. Too slowly. Too calmly. Too creepy. And she smiled. "You shouldn't have watched the footage," she whispered. And then, the lights went out. Pitch black. The lights cut out so fast it felt like reality just vanished. Sarah's breath hitched. She grabbed Jake's arm. "Where is she? Where is she?" Jake's voice was shaky but firm. "Emily first. Find Emily." A whisper drifted through the dark, too close, too soft. "You don't understand, she was never yours." Sarah's blood turned to ice. She lunged toward where Claire had been, but Claire wasn't there anymore. Jake fumbled for his phone flashlight. The second it flicked on, Sarah gasped. The rocking chair was still moving. Empty. No Claire. No Emily. Then, a sound from the hallway. A door creaking open. Emily's room. Sarah and Jake sprinted upstairs, Jake kicking the door open. And there she was, Claire standing over Emily's crib, whispering. But Emily was gone. Sarah felt like her heart had skipped a beat. Emily's crib was empty. But then, a soft giggle echoed through the room. A giggle that didn't belong to Emily. Claire slowly turned around, her eyes now glowing with something unnatural. "She's mine now." "What the hell are you talking about?" Jake yelled, his voice cracking. His fists clenched. "You should have never hired me," Claire whispered, her voice too calm. "I was always meant to protect her." Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind them with a deafening bang, trapping them inside. Sarah's mind raced. Something was horribly wrong. Claire wasn't just a creepy nanny, she was hiding something, or someone. A sound came from under the bed. A soft scratching noise, almost like something trying to get out. Sarah backed up, her hand searching for a weapon, anything. But then, Claire's voice came again, more chilling than before. "It's too late, she's already part of me." Claire stepped aside, revealing a dark figure curled under the bed. Sarah's heart was pounding in her chest. She could hardly breathe as Claire stepped aside, revealing the shadow under the bed. With a deep breath, Jake moved forward, his flashlight shaking as it pointed toward the figure. Then, the flashlight revealed a small, pale hand emerging from the darkness. No. No. This isn't happening, Sarah whispered, barely believing what her eyes were showing her. The figure slowly crawled out from under the bed, revealing a gaunt, hollow-eyed child, but it wasn't Emily. Who is that? Jake's voice cracked, stepping back in horror. Claire smiled, her expression unhinged. This is my real daughter. She's been with me all along. Sarah felt her stomach turn. That's impossible. You have Emily. Claire nodded slowly. I've had her. But not in the way you think. I've been protecting her. Suddenly, a terrifying realization hit Sarah. Emily hadn't been stolen, she had been hidden. Under Claire's twisted care. Sarah's head was spinning. Protecting her? From what? She demanded, her voice trembling with fear. Claire's smile faded, replaced by a dark, almost gleeful expression. She wasn't supposed to be with you. You don't understand her. You don't deserve her. You're crazy. Jake shouted, shaking his head in disbelief. You're talking about your own child like she's a possession. But Claire wasn't listening. Her gaze was fixed on the hollow-eyed child, who was now standing beside her with a creepy calm. She was born different. You didn't see it, but I did, Claire whispered, her voice taking on a strange hypnotic tone. She has a gift, and you couldn't handle it. Sarah took a step back. A gift? Claire, what are you talking about? Claire's eyes flickered to the empty crib. Emily wasn't supposed to be left in the world like that. Sarah's blood ran cold. Like what? She echoed. Claire's voice dropped to a low whisper. Emily's power, it's dangerous. People have been trying to take her for years. Jake clenched his fists. You think we're the danger? Keycap 1. The room was tense, with every breath feeling heavier than the last. Sarah's heart was racing. What are you saying? That Emily has some kind of power? Keycap 2. Claire stepped closer, her eyes locked onto Sarah, her voice dangerously calm. Yes. And I was the only one who could keep it contained. But now, it's too late. Keycap 3. Too late for what? Jake demanded, stepping forward, ready to break through this nightmare. Keycap 4. Claire's smile returned, but it was no longer a smile, it was more like a sneer of madness. You don't get it, do you? Emily was never meant to be a normal child. She was always destined for something greater. Keycap 5. This isn't about destiny, Claire. Sarah shouted, her voice cracking. This is about a child, your daughter, being manipulated. Keycap 6. Claire's eyes flashed with a sudden intensity. You think I'm the one manipulating her? No. The world was always going to try to control her. Keycap 7. Suddenly, the walls shook. The whole house seemed to groan as if something unseen was pushing against it. Keycap 8. Sarah and Jake exchanged a glance, both realizing something was seriously off. What is that? Sarah whispered. Keycap 9. Claire chuckled, but it wasn't a laugh, it was a low, guttural sound that made their skin crawl. Her power. It's waking up. Keycap 10. You're crazy, Claire. This isn't about power, it's about you being a dangerous, delusional. But before Jake could finish, the room darkened. The room shuddered, and the air grew thick, as if the house itself was holding its breath. Claire stepped back, her arms outstretched as though welcoming the storm. It's happening. She's coming into her own now. Jake's voice was a mere whisper, filled with dread. Who's coming into her own? Emily? Or whatever this thing is. Sarah's head was spinning, the pieces of this twisted puzzle just not fitting. What do you mean? She's coming into her own? What's happening to my daughter? The little hollow-eyed child standing next to Claire suddenly twitched, her fingers spasming as her eyes rolled back. Sarah felt a sickening feeling in her stomach. What the hell is she doing? Claire's voice became chillingly quiet, almost like a chant. It's begun, the transformation, it has to be done. A dark wind swept through the room, and the windows rattled as if they were about to shatter. Sarah grabbed Jake's arm, pulling him back toward the door. "We need to get out of here. Now." But before they could move, the dark figure of Emily appeared in the doorway, her eyes glowing a faint, unnatural blue. "Mom. Dad," she whispered, her voice not quite her own. The room felt suffocating. Emily stood in the doorway, her eyes glowing blue, her body unnaturally still. Sarah took a step forward, fear mixing with confusion. "Emily? Is that really you?" The child's lips parted in a slow, deliberate motion. "Yes, Mom. It's me." But the voice that came out wasn't Emily's. It was deeper, colder, almost demonic. Jake shook his head. "This isn't our daughter. This thing isn't Emily." Emily, or whatever this thing was, took a step forward, the air growing heavier, the temperature in the room dropping. Claire looked over at Sarah, her face almost regretful. "I never wanted it to come to this. But I couldn't stop it." Sarah's blood ran cold. "Stop what? What did you do to her, Claire?" Claire's voice dropped, almost melancholic. "I tried to protect her from the world. I couldn't let them take her. I thought I could hide her power, but I was wrong." Emily's head tilted, and her smile stretched far too wide. "It's already too late, Mom. I've changed. And there's nothing you can do about it." Keycap 1. The room was silent except for the eerie hum in the air. Emily's smile stretched wider, like something far too unnatural. "Keycap 2. What have you become?" Sarah whispered, frozen in fear, her voice barely a breath. "Keycap 3." Emily's glowing blue eyes locked onto hers, a cold, calculating look. "What I was always meant to be. More than human." Keycap 4. Jake clenched his fists, stepping between Sarah and the child. "This isn't Emily. This is a monster." Keycap 5. Claire stepped forward, her face now twisted with regret. "She was never supposed to turn like this. I should have stopped it." Keycap 6. Stopped what? Sarah cried out, her frustration mounting. "What the hell is happening to her?" Keycap 7. Her power. It's uncontrollable. It was always going to come out. Claire's voice trembled, her guilt pouring through. Keycap 8. Suddenly, the lights flickered, and the entire house seemed to pulse with energy. The walls began to creak, as though they were under immense pressure. Keycap 9. Emily's voice was no longer just her own. It was multiple voices, layered over each other, speaking in unison. "I am the one now. I am the power." Keycap 10. With a violent crack, the floor beneath them seemed to warp, and a low rumbling filled the air, like the very earth was breaking apart. The room trembled as Emily's voice rang out, an eerie chorus of whispers that made the very walls seem to quiver. "What's happening?" Sarah gasped, trying to keep her footing as the floor beneath her seemed to pulse with power. "She's breaking through," Claire whispered, her eyes wide with fear. "The power's too much for her to control. It's too late to stop it now." Jake's mind raced, trying to make sense of the impossible. "There has to be something we can do. We can't just stand here and let her turn into this." Emily's laugh echoed, sharp and unnatural, filling the room with an overwhelming sense of dread. "You can't stop what's coming. You were never meant to control it." Sarah took a step forward, her heart pounding. "Emily, please. Come back to us. You're not like this." But Emily didn't respond. Her eyes were now glowing brighter, the light cutting through the darkness like a spotlight. "You're right about one thing," Emily said, her voice now chillingly calm. "I'm not like you. I'm more." Sarah grabbed Jake's arm, desperation flooding her. "There's got to be a way. We can't just lose her to whatever this is." Claire's face was pale, her eyes flickering with what seemed like genuine remorse. "The only way to stop this is for someone to make the ultimate sacrifice." The air was thick with tension, every second dragging on as if the world itself was holding its breath. What are you talking about, Claire? Sarah demanded, her voice trembling with fear. What sacrifice? Claire looked at Sarah, her face etched with pain, her eyes filled with a grief that Sarah had never seen before. There's no other way. If we don't do this, Emily's power will tear everything apart. Jake's voice cracked with disbelief. You want us to sacrifice ourselves? For her? Claire's hands shook as she clasped them together, trying to find the strength to explain. I've tried everything I could. But Emily's power, it's been building for years. She's too far gone. Emily's blue eyes glowed, flashing brighter with every word. No one can stop me. Not even you, Mom. Sarah felt a cold chill creep down her spine, her heart aching. Then what are we supposed to do? Just watch her destroy everything? Claire's voice was barely a whisper, but it carried the weight of 1,000 lifetimes of regret. There's one final way. One of us has to take her place. Only then will her power be sealed. You're asking us to sacrifice everything, just to save her? Jake's words were harsh, but underneath, there was an undeniable fear. Claire nodded, her face as pale as death. I wish there was another way. But there isn't. The room was silent, the weight of Claire's words pressing down on everyone like a suffocating blanket. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest, the reality of Claire's statement sinking in like a stone in her gut. You can't be serious, you want one of us to give up everything? Claire's eyes glistened with unshed tears. I didn't want it to come to this. But Emily, she can't control this power. If one of us doesn't take her place, everything we know will be destroyed. Emily, standing in the corner with her glowing eyes, sneered. It's not about you anymore, Mom. You can't save me. I'm beyond saving. Jake clenched his fists, his face twisted in anger and fear. So, we're supposed to just let one of us die for this? For her? Sarah looked at Emily, the girl she had raised, the daughter she had loved. But now, this wasn't her child. It was something unrecognizable, something alien. If it's really the only way. Sarah's voice was barely audible, almost as if she was trying to convince herself. Then I'll do it. I'll take her place. Jake spun around, his eyes wide with panic. No. You can't do that. I won't let you. Claire shook her head sadly. It has to be someone who truly loves her. Someone who's willing to sacrifice everything. And Sarah, you're the only one left who can save her. Sarah stood frozen, her eyes flickering between Emily and Jake. The weight of the decision felt unbearable, but she knew deep down that if anyone had a chance of saving her daughter, it was her. The tension in the room was suffocating. Emily's glowing blue eyes seemed to pierce Sarah's soul, and the weight of her decision hung in the air like an unbearable storm cloud. Sarah took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. I can't just walk away from this, but I can't let her destroy everything either. You don't have to do this, Jake said, his voice full of desperation. We'll find another way. We can still fix this. Claire, standing in the corner, seemed to be drowning in her own guilt. There is no other way, Jake. If we don't stop Emily now, it's over. Emily's voice came out as a low, almost soothing hum. I'm already too powerful. There's no turning back. You should all just accept it. Sarah turned to look at her daughter one last time, her heart breaking. I'm doing this for you, Emily. I'll take your place, if it means you can finally be free of this curse. Jake grabbed her arm, his eyes frantic. No, Sarah. Don't do it. Please, I can't lose you too. But Sarah knew what had to be done. The love for her daughter was greater than anything else. I love you, Emily. I always will. The ground shook beneath them, and a strange force pushed Sarah forward. Her body felt heavy, as though something was pulling her into the dark abyss. As she stepped toward Emily, her heart thundered in her chest. She was ready to make the ultimate sacrifice, to save her daughter from this uncontrollable monster she had become. Just as Sarah was about to reach Emily, the room exploded with a deafening sound, a crack like the sky splitting open. Sarah froze, feeling the power radiate from Emily, but it was different this time, darker, more intense. "What's happening?" Jake shouted, his voice barely audible over the chaos that surrounded them. Claire stumbled backward, fear evident on her face. No, this wasn't supposed to happen like this. She can't be this powerful." Emily's eyes flared brighter, burning with an unnatural intensity. "You think you can stop me? I am beyond control now." Suddenly, the force pushing Sarah forward shifted, as if the very air had turned against her. She staggered back, a sense of impending doom filling her. Jake rushed to her side, pulling her away. "We can't let her get to that point. She's gone." But as Sarah stumbled, the truth hit her like a ton of bricks. Emily wasn't just a victim of her power. She had embraced it. She had let herself become something beyond human. "I've already won," Emily said coldly, her voice like ice. "You were never a match for me. You can't save me now." Sarah realized, in that moment, that it wasn't her sacrifice that was needed. It was a choice that Emily would have to make herself. The room felt like it was collapsing around them, as if the very air itself was being twisted by Emily's newfound power. "You don't understand, Emily," Sarah pleaded, her voice trembling but filled with raw emotion. "You still have a choice." Emily's lips curled into a cruel smile, her eyes glowing brighter than ever. "I don't need your pity. I'm in control now." Sarah took a step forward, her heart breaking as she looked at her daughter, this stranger who wore Emily's face. "Please, just listen to me. This isn't you." "No, it's exactly who I am," Emily spat, her voice harsh and filled with contempt. "I'm no longer that weak little girl you used to know. I've outgrown you." Sarah's breath hitched. "Emily, this power, it's not a gift, it's a curse. You're not free, you're trapped in it." But Emily laughed, a laugh that echoed in the room, dark and terrifying. "I'm not trapped. I'm evolving. And you're just too afraid to admit it." Jake stepped forward, his eyes wild with panic. "Emily, please. This isn't the way. You're throwing everything away." The ground beneath their feet trembled again, a reminder that Emily's power was no longer something they could control. "You can't stop me now," Emily sneered, her voice barely a whisper. "This is who I am now." Sarah's heart shattered, realizing the painful truth. Emily had made her choice. The little girl she once knew was gone. The room was filled with an eerie silence, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Emily stood there, her power surging around her like a storm. Sarah's heart was heavy with sorrow, but it was also filled with resolve. "You may have made your choice, Emily, but so have I." Emily's glowing eyes flickered for a moment, as if unsure of what Sarah meant. "What choice are you talking about? You can't stop me now." "Maybe I can't stop you, but I can still love you," Sarah replied, her voice steady but filled with emotion. Jake stepped back, unsure whether he should intervene or let Sarah try to reach Emily on her own. The tension in the room was palpable. "You don't get it," Emily snapped, her eyes flashing. "I'm done with all of you. I'm beyond all of this." Sarah took a deep breath, knowing this might be the last time she could speak the truth to her daughter. "You're still my daughter, Emily. No matter what you've become, I will never give up on you." Emily's face twisted in a mixture of anger and confusion. "Stop trying to hold on to the past. I'm not that little girl anymore. I'm stronger than all of you." But Sarah, despite the storm inside her own heart, stood tall. "Strength isn't measured by how much power you have. It's about who you are at your core." Emily's eyes flickered once more, uncertainty creeping in for the first time. Could Sarah's words still reach her?